All right, good afternoon, folks. This is Matt from NCRPA with Aaron, and we have some special guests from Raleigh, which we'll introduce in just a moment. We just want to welcome you to our third wellness webinar. Real quick, I just want to give you guys some short ground rules and information. So you know, everyone is muted, which means we cannot hear anything you say. At the end, we will unmute attendees for questions. Additionally, if you have questions, you can put them in the question pane. I will answer them as best I can, especially if it has to do with you can't hear, technical issues, etc. If there's any questions for the attendees, I'm sorry, not the attendees, the presenters from Raleigh, go ahead and ask them, and then we'll read them in the order we receive them at the end, and they'll be answered. Again, thanks for attending. This is being recorded, and there'll be a video version of this available after sometime next week. So I'll let Erin take it away.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm glad to have you here for our third wellness webinar. This is going to be presented by Kara McLeod, Beth Souls, and Kelly Beach from Raleigh Parks and Rec. Just an overview of what we're going to do. I'm welcoming them now. They're going to give their presentation, and then they're going to answer some questions, and then I'll get back on and I'll wrap up with a few future wellness initiative events.
Hi, so I'm Beth Souls. I'm a program manager in the Youth Programs Division. I manage before and after school programs, which includes the snacks that we feed the children in our after school programs.
I'm Kelly Beach, the Marketing Communications Administrator for Raleigh Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Resources Department. And we are tasked with making sure that the community knows about all of the things that we have to offer.
Yep. My name is Kara McLeod, and I also work in Marketing Communications with Raleigh Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Resources Department. And I think the best part about our job is we get to get the word out about all of our programs and things we're doing, including Healthy Snack Guidelines. So we'll talk a little bit about that today. So before we get started, I'm going to kind of just set the tone a little bit and want to talk about guidelines versus policy and why we titled the presentation Healthy Snack Guidelines. I was chatting with Aaron a little bit back and forth when we first were discussing what to call it. And if you take a step back and look at the definition of a guideline, it's defined as a general rule or principle or a piece of advice. And whereas the definition of a policy is really a set of ideas or a plan of what to do in different types of situations that has to be agreed upon officially by a group of people. And because there's so many levels of approval with policy, sometimes it's really difficult to make a change and receive agreement upon all the stakeholders. And because of this, we try to kind of focus on guidelines instead. We've had better success using guidelines sometimes with making changes within our own organization. I think sometimes phrasing it as guidelines makes it easier to make the change. And this approach is helpful to some organizations that have a difficult time getting all the layers of approval needed to actually make a policy shift. So for us, guidelines sometimes work easier, and we just want to make it easy for you to make changes, and so that's why we kind of titled it Healthy Snack Guidelines to really help it make it to be an easy change for you to make within your organization. And so first, Beth Souls is going to talk to you a little bit about what she does in her school programs guidelines.
Hold on one second. I think we're having a video issue. Let's try this again. Does that pop up? Okay. Thanks, Beth.
Okay. So like Kara said, I'm going to talk about our school programs guidelines and kind of some of the things that we've done over the years to just kind of help us determine what snacks are we going to serve to the participants in our programs, just to make sure we're doing the right thing for them. So what we decided to do was to follow the Alliance for Healthier Generations, their snack guidelines. And so what they were, and I'm going to talk a bit about how they have changed, but for example, their guidelines before said that the snacks for a school-age child should be 150 calories or less. Total fat should be less than 35% of that 150 calories. Zero trans fat. The sugar by weight should be less than 35%. And less than 230 milligrams of sodium. So we would use those guidelines and select a snack that we thought might, be enticing to a school ager, and then we would make sure that based on the nutrition information on the package, whether or not it met those guidelines. So that's what we've used for several years. The website has recently been updated and a few changes have been made to those guidelines. The Alliance has merged their guidelines with the new USDA Smart Snacks regulations, and these new standards will go into place July 1 of this year. The Alliance for a Healthier Generation website has a ton of resources to assist you with following the guidelines. The guidelines were designed for food sold to students in schools, but these still can be used in your programs as well. So for example, they talk about things that can be in vending machines in the schools, things that can be sold a la carte in the cafeteria, even down to items that can be sold in fundraisers in schools. These are all part of the guidelines that the USDA has set, and that the Alliance for Healthier Generation is also going to follow. So I thought that was pretty neat. They merged together and came up with these guidelines to be used across the board. So for one of the resources they have is a calculator to determine if a particular item meets the guidelines. So they also, another resource that I thought was really neat and is new on the website is they also give you 9 steps to help you get started in using these guidelines. So they talk to you about making sure you know your venue, who's going to be consuming the snacks or the items in your programs. They give you videos that you can share with your staff. They give you the Smart Snack Calculator, which we'll talk about in a second. They talk to you about how to engage the community and other stakeholders. So they have these 9 steps that you can use to kind of guide you as you go along to implement these guidelines in your programs. And you can determine how much or how little of these you want to use. It's very flexible and very easy to use. There's no registration or login needed to use the resources. You can use everything on their website without ever having to create a login. However, they do have a step in the website where you can register your program as a participant, as someone who follows the guidelines. But you don't have to create a login to just use the resources. So we have provided the link, the information for the Alliance for a Healthier Generation. And then on the next slide, I have the actual Smart Snacks product calculator that they have on the website. So that's the resource that you can use. So this is the part that's a little bit new and pretty cool, I actually think. So I played with it. So you just answer the questions. It leads you step by step, and you answer the questions. So you can see that's the first page kind of the snack calculator there on the screen. And so it asks you, is it a snack? Is it a side item, a beverage, etc.? So you answer those questions, and you click next step, and it leads you through 3 or 4, depends on what the item is, questions until finally at the end it tells you whether or not that particular item that you've plugged in meets the guidelines. And you just use the nutrition information straight off the package of the particular item that you're trying to determine. So that's the Smart Snack Calculator. Okay, something else that we have implemented in our school programs is physical activity guidelines. And those are from the Eat Smart, Move More North Carolina organization. And so, for example, their guidelines say that 20% of your program time should be dedicated to moderate to vigorous physical activity. So you calculate how many hours a day you operate your program and figure out what 20% of that time is. So, for example, for me in my after-school program, that's 30 minutes of my after-school program needs to be moderate to vigorous physical activity. And their definition of moderate to vigorous physical activity is that I'm moving majority of the time of that activity. So, for example, baseball is not a moderate to vigorous physical activity. Though it is a physical activity, I'm not moving the majority of the time. But soccer would be a moderate to vigorous physical activity. So those are great things and really easy to do when you first look at it and you think, oh my gosh, this is going to be so hard, how in the world? But when you calculate the actual number of minutes it is for your program, and you find out, like I said, for us, it's 30 minutes. You're like, oh, wow, we already do that. For us, it was super easy. We're a recreation program anyway. We were already playing games and running around and having a good time, so we were already meeting those guidelines without even having to make any changes or do anything different. Okay, so next I just wanted to share a few successes and challenges as we kind of implemented the snacks and using the snack guidelines. So some of the successes we've had is just to know that at least once a day a child is definitely getting something nutritious. Unfortunately, it's sad to think about it, but there may be children who that's the best meal they get all day is the snack that we give them. So, for example, we know that 600 kids a day get a healthy snack by coming to our programs. We were also able to introduce different foods that they may not have tried before. So, for example, we started serving rice cakes as one of our after-school snacks, and we weren't sure how that was going to go, but they actually liked it, and we're pretty excited about it. So I thought that was pretty neat. For example, as a child, I had never tried a rice cake. I thought it was so weird when I saw my friends having rice cakes, but I liked them as well. So that was kind of neat to know that we were introducing them to new and different healthy snacks. Some of the challenges we have had is, for example, shelf life. We would love to be able to serve fresh fruit every day, but in our community centers, we just do not have the space and capacity to store fresh fruits and vegetables in our community centers. So that's just not something we're able to do regularly. Another challenge for us has been our vendor options. We are only able to get the products that our particular vendors sell. So they already have limited what they sell to us anyway, and then trying to take from that list, do they actually meet the guidelines? So that's been a little bit of a challenge for us, and we're not able to offer as much variety as we would like. Another thing is the cost. Of course, unfortunately, budget always plays a role in everything that we do in our programs. So trying to make sure that we're, what do they have to offer that meets our guidelines, and then is that something that's cost effective for us to serve? And then serving sizes as well. Kind of back to the storage issue, we aren't able to buy, huge boxes of goldfish. We buy prepackaged items so that we're able just to give each child their individual package of goldfish or whatever the snack may be. So we are limited to that as well. Of does our vendor have that particular snack, and does it come prepackaged versus us having to, divvy out particular serving size to each child. So that's just a little bit about our guidelines that we implement around snack and our physical activities. So now Kelly is going to talk to us a little bit about the other snack plans like Coaches and the camp snack plan that we use.
Okay, so we also wanted to give some examples of some educational flyers and materials that we use. These were designed in partnership with Advocates for Health and Action, which is a local organization that has some like-minded people in the medical industry, recreation, agencies, lots of different organizations coming together to address childhood obesity and healthy eating. And so what was developed, we have one called the Sports Snack Game Plan and one called the Camp Snack Game Plan. And really the intention of these two flyers or educational pieces is really to combat some perceived barriers. So one, we always hear that there's a perceived cost barrier with comparing prices of healthy snacks to typical snacks. And some of these are two of the challenges that Beth just mentioned. But we want to be able to give some tangible examples to parents and to coaches and other places where we know that people are providing snacks to children. So an example for a healthy snack, they give some ideas, things like bananas, things that are easy to use. That a healthy snack could cost $4 versus your typical snack, a bagged snack and juice box, which is kind of the go-to snack for a lot of people because of convenience, that has a $7 cost for the same amount of product. So there are ways to still do that. The other barrier that we see is that people are looking for convenience food, so looking for items that are going to be well received and recognized by children, that they're portable, and that they require minimal preparation. So for the Sports Snack Game Plan in particular, that one's focused on the snacks that parents are providing for after an athletic game or youth athletics. And camp snacks, we have a lot of parents that are packing their snacks for their child that may be gone all day at camp. So both of those, we want to make sure that parents have good, easy options to use, and that they don't kind of go just with their go-to standard, whatever they can grab quickly off the shelf, and so that we have some alternatives, same kind of convenience and portability, but a much healthier option. The other ways that we distribute this information, so the Sports Snack Game Plan has been distributed through our youth coaches to the parents of children participating in youth sports. Again, like I just mentioned, because the parents in most cases are responsible for providing after-game snacks. They sign up and bring them to, at the conclusion of each game. In addition, the Sports Snack Game Plan we include in our Leisure Ledger, which is our program catalog and guide next to our youth athletics registration, just as another consistent reminder of some of those options. The Camp Snack Game Plan we include on the back cover of the summer camp brochure, which is our program guide for summer camps. Both of these can be easily shared through our website. We use them on social media as reminders. They can be distributed as flyers. So really anywhere is an inexpensive way to just help continue to reinforce the message and share the word. The next thing we want to cover, though, are some successes and challenges. Like anything, there's always going to be some successes and challenges. So as far as successes go, we think this has been a great step in increasing general awareness for staff. Just like the coaches and parents, some of our staff just haven't necessarily thought about different things that they might want to do to help promote bringing healthy snacks to camp, or encouraging parents to bring them to games. So just noting that taking the first step toward change is a huge step, and just by providing education and reminders. The biggest challenges that we face, like Kara mentioned in the beginning, these are guidelines, it's not policy. So with that, we may see some limited change. It's not enforceable, so it's suggestions, and we have to continue to suggest, but we really don't have any grounds to really enforce those. The other area is just because we are relying heavily on the coaches and the parents to champion the process and support, we have a loss of control. So kind of like before, there's not enforcement, we just have to be very consistent and kind of stay the course with the message. And as you go through, we want to continue, we just keep looking for new ways to re-energize this and make it something that parents and coaches actually want to do. A really great example we saw from another local town is making it fun and turning it into a competition. So what they have talked about is using Twitter and Instagram to challenge their youth athletics teams. Take a photo of the healthy snack that you provided and the kids enjoying it and send that out, and they have a contest. So the one with the most creative or best little picture after the game, they have a smoothie party at the end of the season. So there are a lot of different ways to just continue to reinforce. It also gives parents new ideas of snacks that maybe they hadn't thought about. So we just would say keep taking the small steps forward. That education and behavior change certainly don't happen overnight, and so don't be defeated. Just keep going.
And to wrap up a little bit, we just want to say that you can make the change. You don't have to wait on a huge policy shift to start doing some things. There's some little things you can do every day to really help in this effort. And so if you think about your messages that you communicate every day and how you promote healthy behaviors and snacks, we touch people's lives through our websites, publications, brochures, and even in our centers really every single day. And at each of these points, we have an opportunity to show healthy behaviors. So on your websites and your publications, you can show people having good healthy snacks in your locations. You can show images of people running and playing, swimming and biking, and just really showing those images that model good behavior. And making the images consistent, showing those behaviors will really help to reinforce your message of being a healthy community. So one of the other ideas that we use too that I'll just touch on briefly is Pinterest. The City of Raleigh Parks, Recreation and Cultural Resources Department has a Pinterest page, and it's just pinterest.com/Raleigh Parks if you want to take a look at it. And we have two boards on there, and one of them is Stay Healthy and the other is Eat Healthy. And so you'll find some different ideas there. We use these as a way for people to share ideas of being healthy in their parks. So you'll find things like taking kids to the park. I used to be one of those moms sitting on the sidelines. Now I'm active. These are some great exercises to do. 50 different things to put into Easter eggs other than candy. 20 ways to burn 200 calories, short workouts to fun activities that you can do on a Friday night. And so there's all kinds of different ideas that you can share with your community there, and just taking that opportunity as an option to share healthy behaviors there as well. So I guess just before we turn it over to questions, we just want to say don't wait for a huge policy shift. You can go ahead and start making these changes. And think about the summer camps and what an opportunity you have here coming up to really try to make some of these guidelines and changes. And try it out. It really makes a huge difference. These little changes make such a big impact when working in a community. So I think at that, if we're ready to take questions, if you guys have questions.
Sure. All right. Thank you, Raleigh. We appreciate you guys sharing that. Looks like we have a couple of typed questions, and then I'm going to give you all a chance if you want to type a question into the question box. I could read it and answer it. Additionally, there's an option to raise your hand. We'll try that first with questions, and we'll let you speak. And then at the very end, we'll unmute everybody, but understand unmuting everybody requires everybody hearing each other. So we'll do our best to open a little conversation there at the end as well. So let me open up these questions real quick, and we'll go from there. All right, so we have two. Luke Guthrie wants to know if it would be possible to have the snack game plan flyers shown so they're easier to see, or if we can email them.
Sure, we can do that. Email may be the easiest way, whatever works.
I'll work here at NCRPA to get copies of those PDFs and either share them with all the attendees, if that's okay with Raleigh, or some other way to get y'all connected.
And we also have a page in the Wellness Toolkit that is healthy snack, and it's got to be in camp and after school programs. And I'll make sure that, after we send that out, I'll go ahead and put that up on the page as well.
Okay, next question, and just from reading it, we'll do our best to answer it. Barbara Johnson asks, what can we do to modify salt and sugar intake in snacks provided for after-school/summer camps?
Well, one thing is making sure the sodium level of that particular snack is not high, and I think using the snack calculator is going to help as well. I mean, it is great. You just plug in the information, and like I said, a couple of steps later, it will tell you whether or not that's a healthy option or not.
Yeah. Perfect. Agreed.
Does the snack calculator give alternative options if it doesn't?
I've played for what I've played with. Some I've plugged in obviously were good options, so it said, yes, this is a great option, good job. And then the ones I played with that I knew were going to obviously not be a good option, but I wanted to see what it would say. It would give you tips, like try to find something with a lower sodium count, or try to find something with fewer calories, because I guess it is gauging whatever kind of took it over the edge when it was not a good choice. It kind of references you back to try to find something that has a better, a lower count of whatever was off the chart, perhaps. And then for one I did, it even said, for example, like an apple or something, so it gave, something to try.
So if it's not in the calculator, you could use the guidelines that were shared in that first link to do it yourself, to look it up.
Yeah, because that's how we first started doing it. We just used the guidelines and literally took the item in front of us with the nutrition label and then matched it up to the guidelines before they had the awesome calculator.
Great. Okay. We have another question from Barbara Johnson. Barbara asks, are community gardens a part of your after-school and summer camps? If so, have you accomplished this?
Community gardens, not right now. It's not part of our. Do you guys do some lessons or anything with gardening a little bit, maybe?
Yes, we have track out programs here in youth programs, and we did have one track out program to do a community garden in their program. Unfortunately, with track out, if you're not aware, the children are there, and then that group of children tracks out. Sorry, they're in school and they track out. So they're at our program for 3 weeks, and they go back to school. So we were a little bit of a challenge there. But that's my project, because I did it when I was tracked out. But now the new group of children that are tracked out come, and they want to do their own thing. So we had a little bit of challenge with that. But we have tried to do track out one time.
And Barbara, just to answer on another note about community gardens, I know there's other departments around the state that are doing that or starting to do that. And if you want to send either myself, Matt at ncrpa.net, or Aaron, which is Aaron at ncrpa.net, an email about that question, we could send it through our listserv and ask who is doing those gardens and what are their accomplishments, etc., and try to get you some answers if you want some tangible examples to use. We'd be happy to do that. And I know there are some folks who are doing that around the state, and it's a good thing. So if you're considering it, please do so and please share. All right, we have another question from Nick Sadler. Have you thought about making this a policy in Raleigh? I understand that guidelines suggest, but do you think you would ever make this a policy? In other words, when you are at our centers or programs, you will eat these items.
That's a very, very good question, Nick Sadler. so Nick works with us, and it is a good question. For us, sometimes policy is a little more difficult to move forward, but I definitely think for a lot of times what we do is we start with these guidelines, and we start making changes this way, and then it becomes a habit and a way of life. And then what happens is when we go to make a policy change, it makes it that much easier because everybody's already on board. We're like, oh, we're already doing this, no problem. So the acceptance piece and the resistance piece is not there. They're like, oh, we're doing this already. It's not hard. All the barriers have been removed. So right now, we haven't done a whole lot of policy change when it's the parent's choice. It's the parent's choice to bring a snack and what they choose to bring. We haven't done that. So it's something, you know, if our decision makers decide that that's something that's a priority for them, it's something certainly we'll look for policy change. And if our community wants that, that's something, you know, we'll look at doing for policy change as well.
And I think, like Kara said, it's easier sometimes to start with policy change on the things that you directly control. So one of the areas we are doing right now is when we've negotiated our new vending contract, those are items that we do control that are in our facilities available, but we're making that decision. So the last vending contract, we've regulated what the items that are in a vending machine within our facilities, their nutrition content, and required certain things from that vendor, and that was written in the contract. And that's a lot easier to control. It's a better starting point for us than parents who are providing products on their own.
Right now, there's no more typed questions. If anybody wants to use the raise their hand function, I'll give you guys about 20 seconds to do that, and we'll give you a chance to ask the question. If not, and while that's happening, I'm going to ask a question. Y'all mentioned you're using social media to promote this. What's been the feedback from, you know, Raleigh's a pretty connected community to begin with. Is there a lot of interaction and feedback from community members when you post these things? Are people excited about it, or is it kind of just passive?
I think so. I think there's a lot of great response. I mean, I think from my perspective, the most we've heard direct feedback about was a change, and we changed to healthier egg hunts and made a change there, and that's a very public-facing decision. And we were overwhelmed by the response, a very positive response by the community saying thank you for providing products that are healthier and alternatives to candy and things like that. As far as the guidelines, I think you get kind of a general thank you, and it's more of a thoughtfulness. But I think you get more response when it's policy change. So for guidelines, I think the response is sort of so-so.
Great. All right, no one's raised their hands, so I'm going to unmute it one more time. So warning, folks, if you're chatting away or chewing on your lunch or on the line with someone else, I am unmuting everyone, give everybody a chance to have a quick open discussion. If not, we will end the webinar briefly after that, and we'll follow up with a couple more just in notes.
Oops, sorry.
So, everyone, you are unmuted. Does anybody have any discussion questions they'd like to do? Ma'am? Anyone?
Easy to talk and communicate with.
Guess who recommended her for the position?
Amber?
Matt.
Nope.
Are y'all still there?
Yeah,
We are.
You have a question?
Yes, I do. So how do you guys, this is for the girls, incorporate literacy as a part of that healthy eating snack? How have y'all been able to do that? Or are you thinking about doing something like that? Because we talk a lot, you know, to our students about eating, but a lot of it, you know, when they're having to go into a kitchen, we try to focus a lot on, we want them to eat it. Like, for instance, when I asked a question about the community garden, we, for the last 2 years, have grown our own herbs. And we let the students basically do it in our summer camp. And then we may get the herbs and we make pizzas and things of that nature. But we also work with somebody from the Extension Center in Statesville, North Carolina. And she talks to the students about measuring cups. It may be teaspoons, things of that nature. So do you incorporate some of the kitchen type literacy as well with the students, just, you know, just not maybe just eating something?
Yes, we have also used the extension service in our summer camp programs as well, and they came out and, you know, did some discussions and some talks with the participants in our summer camp, and also did some right after camp pickup time, some parent sessions as well. And so we provided kind of an extended, you know, care for the child, so the parent could come and meet with a representative from the extension service and talk about nutrition and kind of, you know, easy ways to incorporate it at home, and discuss, you know, about kind of back to Kelly's topic about it's not so expensive. It doesn't have to be expensive to eat healthy. So they did that session for parents in our programs as well. So we've used that same group.
And I think in our team programs, they've worked also with 4-H and done things like just basic introduction to some foods that they may not be familiar with, to teach them how to prepare them correctly, how you would make a healthy snack, and had a lot more hands-on component so that they could take that back and do some things at home afterwards.
Okay. We're also looking to incorporate, you were talking about physical activity. We want to talk about the mass body fat a lot, which our kids do not like to talk about. So that's something we're going to be focusing a lot on this summer. So they kind of know where they start when camp begins, and then where they hopefully end up very successful. So we're going to be doing a lot of Zumba and cooking healthy meals in the kitchen, or probably more like a snack type thing. But what else do you all maybe try to pair up as you're talking about how, like, I guess, for lack of a better word, how are you pairing your physical activity when you're talking about eating healthy?
We do some of the same things. We do cooking experiences where, you know, they get to make a special snack usually once a week. So same thing, we incorporate making sure that cooking experience is geared around a healthy snack, and talk about how to read labels of the items they're choosing, and you know, how to read a label and what does that mean on the label. So at the end of, you know, we made ants on a log or whatever, and what is the nutrition information for that snack that we made. And then we've also done things where that we have a walking program for in before school, for example. So when the weather's not nice, they do it inside the gym, and so they'll walk laps around the gym and, you know, get marked down for how many laps they've completed, and earn little special prizes. You know, per every 5 laps, you get a sticker or a ticket to be able to go to kind of the before school store and be able to buy something. And again, those are all health related things like jump ropes and things like that they can earn money. We call it money, but it's tickets to be able to go shop at the store to be able to get, you know, a prize, but it's always healthy related prizes. Okay,
that sounds good. I like that.
So one of the other things we did was a screening. We did this also with our organization, Advocates for Health and Action. And so it was a screening on a video called What's on Your Plate, which is kind of an interesting, it shows kids and shows them and what's on their plate and educates them a little bit. So that might be a good resource for you as well to kind of check out, to show the kids maybe. And Beth has maybe feelings on. The group brought a farmer in that they screened it with, which was kind of interesting, so the kids could ask questions afterwards. So, you know, there's some opportunity there too.
Yeah, we took our track out programs to see the screening, and it was pretty neat because the video does talk about it. It follows 2 girls around and from the grocery store all the way to the farm to try to, you know, educate them on, you know, exactly where does our milk come from, or where does this carrot come from, things like that. And then afterwards they had kind of a question and answer session with a farmer and someone who worked at the farmer's market and things like that, and they were able to ask, you know, questions. And, you know, it's always cute, the questions that the kids come up with, but it was I thought fun, but very educational for the participants.
And probably one last question. I don't know if my assistant has one, but we've seen a lot of students just in the last couple of years that are allergic to a lot of fruit, different types of fruit. I don't think I've seen the allergies like we've had I would say the last 2 years. Have y'all been seeing some of that, like being allergic to apples and can't eat strawberries and these types of things?
Yeah, we've seen an increase in that as well, and I haven't seen apples, but I've definitely seen strawberries and pineapple. It has been much more common, like you said, lately than I had ever seen before. So, yeah, that's something that we have to work around as well. Just, same thing with nuts and things like that.
Go ahead.
What would be a good alternative for like an apple or a strawberry?
Banana.
Like if they had like a certain snack with that, what could we do to implement something different? What would be a good?
Particularly when if you're working like we work with a summer feeding,
yes.
They provide our lunches,
yes.
So you don't. I don't want to leave anybody out. I want everybody to get the same thing, but I know some students can't. So
right.
How have you been able to deal with, if you have a summer feeding program, how do you all handle that?
I mean, we were kind of talking here that, bananas are usually a pretty safe bet as well. So possibly you could just have some bananas on hand. So if you are on the summer food program and they're providing, let's say, apples, and that's what they provided for the day, maybe if you could just purchase a few bananas so that way the children that were allergic to those items, they could have a banana or, some other fruit that you've chosen, but bananas are usually a pretty, safe bet. That might be something just to kind of keep on hand.
Yeah. That's what I wanted to know.
Barbara, thank you for your questions, and it sounds like you got a couple other people in your office over there. This is Matt.
No, it's just the two of us, but
they're very good. We appreciate them. Trust me.
Yeah, but those are the only three that we had.
There's another resource that I'll share that I tend to share it a lot. There's a national organization called Share Our Strength that has a program called Cooking Matters. I actually used to run the program here in Raleigh for a nonprofit called the Interfaith Food Shuttle about 4 or 5 years ago. And if you look them up, they help provide free cooking and nutrition classes. You have to find what partner organization they're working with in your area. But I know when I ran that program, I worked with Durham School District and Chapel Hill, Orange County. I don't think I actually worked with Raleigh, but with a bunch of different, I worked out in Clayton and stuff. So that's another group to look into, especially since they provide, it's free. They usually bring the food and they usually provide the curriculum. It doesn't hurt to not only look up them, but see what organizations are in your community that are doing nutrition outreach, along with your local cooperative extension. There's some other maybe nonprofits or just community groups that want to help you out and believe in the idea of practicing good nutrition in the community, and they may be able to help you out, understanding that we're recreation professionals and not wellness professionals, and utilizing those tools and those experts to help you accomplish your goals.
I think that's a really good point that Matt brings up, because all of our successes have not been in silos. It really has been reaching out to other organizations that have the expertise, like a hospital in the area has been really helpful about offering nutritionists, and so I mean there's lots of, because we don't have the expertise when it comes to that. So if you can reach out to others in your community that have, I think it's really helpful way to get things done and accomplished.
We have looked at some of that Cooking Matters. It was I think it was a curriculum that I saw somewhere in Georgia they were doing it. They were had activity books, which we definitely liked a lot, particularly for a child, kindergarten, maybe through 3rd grade. We're just also looking at other ways.
Barbara, you're breaking up. But just send me an email, matt@mtrpa.net.
Yeah.
I could answer any questions you have about them, and if you want to connect, I may be able to connect you with some folks that I know in the area.
All right, sounds good, Matt. Thanks a lot.
Sure. We're going to wrap things up now because it is a little after 2 and folks need to get places. thank you again, everyone, for being here. Erin's going to just share a couple quick notes. NCRPA, we're just going to do a mini round of applause. Thank you. Yeah, the Raleigh folks are bowing. They came and put on a great presentation today. We'll have more upcoming, so Erin's going to close it out.
All right, just two quick things. Our next webinar is going to be May 20th at 1:30. It's going to be presented by Matt Hayes at Alta Planning, and it's looking at bike and pedestrian access to parks. So, you know, we have a lot of physical activity in our parks, but how do we, you know, increase that activity on people's trips to the park? So that should be great. Also, if you saw the Wellness Bulletin yesterday, we're going to have some healthy food workshops in May, in early June, for the week of May 12th. On the 12th, we're going to be in Mooresville, and on the 13th, we're going to be in Asheville, and then on the 15th, we're going to be in Clinton and in Greenville. So it's going to be a 2-hour workshop. You're going to learn not only about resources in your community, you're going to learn about food safety issues and procuring and preparing some of this produce, and it should be a great time. There's the link in the bulletin, but I'll also put it up in the Wellness Toolkit. So if you want to register, please do. Yeah, completely free. Just show up. So thank you very much, and hope to see you next month or at either in the webinar or in the workshop. If you need anything, just email me at erin@ncrpa.net or take a look at our toolkit. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.